Hallå, hallå, välkommen. We are just waiting for more people to arrive, but we should start soon. Also, my camera is not working, so that's why you don't see me.
Hello.
Hi, hi. I'm gonna give people 1 or 2 more minutes to join, and then we get going soon. Okay, it's 10 o'clock here, so I think we can just start today's webinar. I'm Katrin. I work for Mattis, and I will be hosting the webinar. Unfortunately, my camera is not working today, but I hope that is still okay. In today's webinar, we will be talking about fully utilizing a bioresource, and in our case, it is fish. And in Iceland, well, maybe start with introducing the project. This webinar is on behalf of the BIO2REG project, which is a project that enables transition towards circular and systematic bioeconomy model regions with a regional approach. And we have 9 partners from 8 countries, and we're trying to figure out what works in some places and how it can be transferred to other places. So for Iceland, the main bioresource is fish, and on one hand, it comes from fisheries, which is an old industry in Iceland and advanced when it comes to utilization. And then the other source is aquaculture, which is new, but it is rapidly growing. And these 2 industries have different challenges. For the fisheries, it's climate change, stock management internationally, and competitive processing. So we will talk a bit more about that later. And then for aquaculture, the challenges include waste management, water and energy management, product quality, animal welfare, and public perception of the products. And today's speakers will be Valur, who is working for Mattis as a group leader in the value chain group, and then Clara from the Icelandic Ocean Cluster. And Valur is going to start talking about some of the history behind utilizing fish. So Gjör svo vel, Valur.
Thank you, Katrín. I have the same problem as Katrín. It seems to be going around that the camera is not working. Hope you're fine with that. So I'm going to talk a bit about maybe how we went from just doing fisheries to focusing now on food production. So how the industry and the sector has changed during the years or decades, from pure fisheries to focusing on the food aspects. So, small introduction. Fish and fisheries has been quite important for our economy and just enabled us to survive on this island as such. Maybe until the 19th century, the fishing was supplemented by farming and was practiced on open rowing boats by farmers, mainly during the winter season from January till spring. And then you had to get back on your farm with some of the catches you caught during the winter, and then this went on for almost centuries. But we cannot kind of start talking about an independent fishing industry operating full year basis in Iceland when we got our own decked boats in some numbers in the 19th century. And until that, or we had a good fishing stocks around the country, and it was quite popular by other nations to come here to fish. We had Basques and boats from Netherlands going for the whales, and the French and the Portuguese and the English came for the demersal species. So that was quite a lot of fishing done around Iceland, and the stocks were not quite happy about it, or they were struggling a bit, and therefore we started to expand our jurisdiction, and you see we did it in 4 steps. From going to 3 to 4 miles in 52, and then to 12 miles in 58, and then so on and so forth until we got only in 75 we got the 200 miles jurisdiction or fishing zone around Iceland. And as you can see in the picture, we have drawn a line between Greenland and us in the middle, and also between the Faroe Islands. And this resulted in rapid decline in other foreigners coming fishing in Iceland, and this was done mainly because of rapid decline of the main fishing stocks, and we had quite a lot of overfishing. And then when we had complete overview of our stocks, we saw that we had to do something, because to get the stocks back in shape. So in 83, we put a quota on some of the most important species. And in 1990, we put the quota or individual transferable quota on all major species. So these are quite important steps in trying to get the stocks back in proper shape. So this is what how our catches have been, and also the foreigners. You can see during the World Wars, the foreigners were not coming here to fish in the same number. So it was good to be a fish around Iceland during the First and Second World War. But you see also the high number of foreigners fishing, and these numbers are probably underestimated. So until we go for the 200 miles jurisdiction, there were a lot of foreigners fishing around Iceland. You can also see maybe the red, the strong capelin stocks we got after 1970, and blue whiting, the green stocks, later. And these pelagic species has been extremely important, especially if you see that the demersal species had declined a bit or been stable for the last decades. So the quota system is highly important. So we have this, as I said, introduced in 83, quotas on important species, and either limitation regarding number of fishing days or the quantities fished. So we had some kind of quota system for selected species because of the herring stocks disappeared completely, and also the capelin stocks were struggling. So we had a quota for those species. And one of the important things is that the quota year starts on 1st of September. So it's not based on the calendar year, and this is mainly to reduce the fishing during the summer times when you're usually quite low on quota, and so they have a good spawning season, or the fish is not hunted during the spawning season. And we have a system new for the small boat system, coastal fishing, that was introduced in 2009. So we have a number of small boats around the country in that system. But this system kind of makes it, and they're just fishing during the summertime. So we have a steady supply of demersal species all year round, which is quite important for the market. Because as some of you know, the Norwegians, they do most of their fishing from January till April, May, and then they go on long holiday to Spain, and then they flood the market with their products, and then we take the market over and supply the rest of the year. So it's important that we see how the stocks are and estimate how the stocks are doing, and we have the Marine Freshwater Research Institute doing that, and they are providing scientific advice and doing the and putting out the total available catches for each species, and that information is presented and evaluated by ICES. So here you see an example of a research vessel looking for capelin this year, and you can see when we put the acoustic values, you can see the red stuff. That means that there's the capelin, because it doesn't make any sense to have all the fleet looking for capelin. We have the research vessels looking, and then they can estimate the stock size and give quota to the boats and tell them where the most promising location is each time. And we can a number of other supplementary measures. You know, we have discard ban, as other nations have. We have extended area closures and temporary closures during for the spawning grounds, and we have also fishing gear selectivity in the demersal fisheries. So we're trying to keep the stocks in a good shape. What has changed a lot since we introduced the quota system is that the companies has been a lot of consolidation. So the companies has been buying each other, getting bigger, and that has influenced how they're working and how the sector has developed during the years, because it wasn't a profitable sector at the time when the quota system was introduced. We had far too many boats. We had far too many small processing facilities. But now we have another a low number of big companies doing both fisheries and primary processing, and we have therefore better utilization of the fish and more options utilizing the side streams. So these are what we are producing. Example of what we're producing for cod, which is of course our most important species, demersal species. We have the, like I said, we're doing the primary processing, so we're filleting, we're portioning. We have a different version of the portions. But we are also using the side streams. We're doing the liver, we're trying to dry the fish heads and backbone, and we're making supplements and medical products, and using the skin for leather and raw and milk, using that and producing oil. So the utilization is good and for the species. And the changes maybe or what we have happened with this consolidation with the quota system, that the companies are now vertically integrated, as I said, doing fishing, primary processing, and the first sale of the products. And they are not, usually have good processing facilities and several boats. So they are controlling the fishing effort quite well. So they can look at how the orders are, they look at the quota status, they look at market price, the status of the ocean, where can they go to get the right species combination, because you're fishing like for the demersal species, you're getting a mix. You're not only getting quota, you're getting haddock and other species. And now they have to consider the oil price, because oil price is affecting the fisheries a lot, because they have to be profitable, and the oil price is having a huge effect on the profitability of those companies. And we have new freshfish trawlers which are functioning a bit different than the old ones. We have trying to limit haul sizes, shorter towing time, getting better quality fish out of the hauls, and we have a shorter trips because the shelf life of this species is not long. So you have to process it short after it was caught to get to the market in time. So we have a quite competitive and profitable industry in Iceland, and it's quite important for the Icelandic economy, the fishing and processing sector, as you can see from the graph. But however, like I said, we're doing primary processing mainly. So we're filleting, portioning, but we're not packaging in the end packets. Like we see here on the side, we had cod loins from Tesco, and we look at the label, you can see they only say it was caught in the Northeast Atlantic by line, trawl, or net. So they're not telling the consumer anything, kind of, about the origin, unless you know it was caught in the Northeast Atlantic. So it could be caught by Norwegians, Russians, Faroese, or Iceland. And they're not telling what kind of method was used. Was it line, trawl, or net? So they're getting around the labeling regulation, and that's maybe what we are missing, as we're not doing the secondary processing. We're not getting closer to the consumer, and our origin therefore get lost. We can't therefore tell the product story or promote sustainability of the project or circularity even. So that's a thing for us, something we might improve. Of course, there are some issues with this. If we do the end packaging here, the part of the shelf life disappears, of course, and there are all kinds of other regulations that affect that we are not doing the secondary processing in Iceland. And we have to look at the salmon, how the salmon sector has behaved in the market and how they have increased their part of the market. And that's probably something that you will hear in the next presentation, how the salmon has not taking over the market, but become a big part of the market, and the prices there. The prices there are something we look at almost every week. Why are they getting such a good price for salmon? Well, the wild cuts are not as well priced. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Valur. And then next up is Clara, who will talk a bit more about utilization.
Good morning. Can you all see the slides, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. So thank you so much for inviting me. And so today I'll be talking about, so of course, fish, but 100% fish. So really kind of building on what Valur just said. And so 100% fish, which is essentially the journey towards the full utilization of the seafood we catch and farm. And so this has been like the flagship program of the Iceland Ocean Cluster. So what is the Iceland Ocean Cluster, you will ask? It is an industrial hub located in Reykjavik on the harbor. It's actually an old fish processing facility, and now it hosts businesses. So we have now about 60 members, so companies from fairly young startup to very well-established multinational companies within our members. And all of them work within what we would call the blue economy, so activities related to the ocean or ocean resources, including a lot of fish. Now, I think just to get a global picture, so not necessarily only in Iceland, but so the overall production of seafood or aquatic food has been growing for the past since the beginning of the records. But one thing that we can notice is definitely from the 90s onwards, capture, so fisheries have been kind of stabilizing globally, while aquaculture has been growing steadily, which is, I guess, both good and bad. So, of course, a lot of the wild fish stocks are under a lot of pressure, overfishing. I mean, Valur described how, some of the certain population of fish have been declining sharply. So, of course, aquaculture is growing. But what's quite interesting, and I think that was one of the global issue, is that while we catch and farm a lot of seafood, there is now an estimate. So I think this number is from 2021. It was done by the World Economic Forum, but 23.8 million tons of that perfectly edible seafood is actually, or aquatic food, is just lost or wasted, which is roughly 15% of that total production of that year. Another estimate that I think is also quite interesting, but it's quite old now, but back in 2011 the FAO estimated that 35% of the aquatic foods, again directed to human consumption, was either lost or wasted globally. So we spend so much energy catching or farming these animals, and then like 15% or like 35% of them gets just wasted, which is absurd. And so this is where the 100% fish programs comes in, where the idea is really to stop this, tackle this problem, and use all of that resource that we spend so much time and energy catching or farming. So let's go back to our lovely cod. So again, very, very critical species in the North Atlantic. Of course, commercially interesting. And so if we look at the traditional value, this is, of course, the fillets, the cheeks, the liver, the raw or the milt. And that's kind of roughly, I would say, a good 12 USD of retail. Now, the thing is, if you look at all the other parts, so the skin, the heads, the frames, the visceras, all these are usually just thrown out. And I mean, they're not bad waste basically because it's just organic matter really, but this is a kind of a lost opportunity for innovation. So now, if we look at all the products that we can create from these different side streams, so essentially the skin, the heads, the frames, and the visceras. Iceland has really shown that you can develop a lot of products from these previously, like these resources that were previously wasted. So, I mean, there are some fairly traditional usage, like for example, the liver can be canned directly or processed into oils, but there are some much more innovative ways. So the visceras can be processed into pharmaceutical, so enzymes can be extracted into pharmaceutical products. The frames and the heads can be dried for pet foods. Collagen can be extracted from the skins and the frames. You can also make fish leather from the fish skin. And so, and I will talk about all these examples, in more details. You can also process the skin for biomedical applications. So overall, you can get a total retail value, like hypothetical, of a single fish that can reach several thousand of USD. So you go from like 12 USD to several thousand of US dollars in terms of potential value, which is huge, and with zero waste. So this is really what we call climbing the value ladder. So you start with, looking at using for full utilization. You can just concentrate everything and then, use some. So usually fish meal would be the traditional bulk utilization for fish side streams or energy recovery. Then you can go into, feed and industrial products. So that would be, again, fish meal or, drying everything for pet foods. Then you can go into slightly higher value, so food and functional ingredients. So that would be your typical collagen or fish oil. Then beauty, wellness, and fashion would be, again, some more refined collagen for beauty products or the fish leather. And then you can go into very, very high value products with pharma and medical applications. And of course, this takes a lot of time and a lot of research and development inputs there. But so I wanted to take a couple of examples of products that were literally created from things that were previously wasted. So the first one is hydrolyzed marine collagen. So this is made from the skins of Atlantic cod. And I think, so you go from, again, something that was wasted, and now this retails for like 62 USD for 200 capsules. So definitely a huge jump in value when you go from 0 to 62 for 200 capsules, or is it 140 grams? And I think I want to mention this quickly, but the story behind the first collagen plant in Iceland, and this will relate on what Valur was saying, but so Icelandic fisheries companies have been consolidated or vertically integrated where they fish and they process they do the primary processing of the fish. So these side streams are actually located into a single place, but still for to invest into a collagen plant using that side stream, it's quite risky for a company to do that. But what happened, so that was back in 2011, at the beginning of the Iceland Ocean Cluster, actually, 4 companies got together and they essentially created a tertiary company that was taking all the side streams, like all the skins from these 4 big processing plants, to then have enough raw material to actually process the collagen out of it. So there's always this issue of scale. You need enough of that raw material for it to make economic sense. So this is essentially how collagen became one of the possibility for using the skins of the fish. And to this day, so now actually the lady that the founder of Feel Iceland, her name is Hrönn Magnusdóttir, she was drinking a lot of energy drinks, Red Bull, and she thought that was not really representing her brand very well. So she decided to partner up with the main drink manufacturer in Iceland, and they came up with their own brand of energy drinks that contains nearly 6 grams of collagen. And here there's another very clever thing that we need to think of when we want to utilize, side streams, is the way you market it. And I think one clever thing that she did was when you want to have, like say apricot flavored drink, and you have within the ingredients fish collagen or fish derived collagen, that might not be the best way to market it. So this was marketed, of course, it's disclosed that this is from fish, but this is marine collagen. And I think, of course, this is a very clever move to, you know, in terms of marketing of this product. And this has been very successful in Iceland. And now they are looking at, you know, exporting into Sweden and the UK. And one thing is, I believe, not every day, but once in a while, in Iceland, more collabs are being sold than Pepsi or Coca-Cola. So definitely a success story. Now, when it comes to, you know, the full utilization, so cod liver oil, this has been a very traditional product. And now the company Lise that produces, or the traditional company that produces the fish oil, they also now diversify into, you know, a lot of different so supplements. So the fish oil can be now found into capsules. They have different flavors because, of course, this has a very fishy taste. And now they're looking at how they can even purify it a bit more to go more into that pharma market with higher value. And so, yeah, this retails for, in ISK, 1,280 Icelandic krona, which is, I would say, roughly, I don't know, 10 to 15 USD. Yeah, and so still looking, you know, at innovation, but within, you know, you don't need to go high tech. So still with liver oil, there's now this very small company in the Westfjords that does, that has now come up with a cold processed fish oil, and it's a much smaller production than Lise. They go into, you know, this very, very high end market with a retail price of roughly 50 USD for 60 capsules. And again, so it's just a slightly different process, but the market was there. So you don't need necessarily very high-tech products to, you know, have a successful business. Now, another side stream that was the viscera, and what you can do with viscera is extract enzyme, and this is what Coldzyme is. So essentially, this is a concentrated, so this is a spray for cold viruses. So whenever you get the flu or a cold, and you just spray it in, you know, your mouth. And so this contains the trypsins, so enzymes that were extracted from the viscera of the cods. And this retails for roughly 4,000 Icelandic krona. So I would say, I don't know, a good 30 USD. So again, much like a very much of a high jump in value from viscera that are usually discarded to something that has a high value and also is very useful. So actually, just side note, this does not destroy the, well, it doesn't want to kill viruses, you know, but it essentially it prevents the virus from settling in your throat. So it usually reduces the severity and the length of the infection. And then another side stream, so back to the skin of the cod, again, that used to be wasted. There's now this company in Iceland called Bioresource that processes the skin of the cod into skin grafts, so some kind of patches that helps with essentially big wounds. So it can be burns or yeah, usually burns. And these retail, depending on the size of the patch, between 500 to 5,000 USD. And again, from a resource that used to be just thrown out, like zero value. And this is actually the first Icelandic unicorn. In 2023, they were sold for 1.3 billion USD. And I think they've really transformed the way people think about fish. So it's really beyond the foods and now going into, you know, medical products. And I think what's quite interesting again with their story is that their production is still located in Iceland in the Westfjord in a small village, but now all their R&D department has moved to the US, where, you know, it has created roughly 300 jobs, I think, in that location. So yeah, again, they've really changed the way we can think of waste or side streams. Yeah, and so I guess the common thing between all these products and all these innovations is, you know, and I think this is what the cluster really aims to do, is building an innovation ecosystem. And the best way I can, yeah, represent it is with this Venn diagram, but you always need the knowledge, the science. So this is where, for example, the Marine and Freshwater Research Institute or the work that Matis is doing falls, really under that knowledge creation. And then you need to have the business side of things as well. So does it make market sense? How do you market certain products? Do you even have a market for that product? And then you have the policies, and all of them somewhat overlap. And for any products or any innovation to actually become successful, you would need these three bubbles to overlap. Like you really need to find the sweet spot. I guess the best example I can think of is also if you have a product but you don't have a market for it, or you have policies that hinder, entering a market, then it's pointless. But vice versa. So if you have a market but you don't know how to make the product, to meet that market, then it's also useless. So you really need to find this balance between these three aspects for any successful product, I guess. And one thing I wanted to say is, again, the power of collaboration. So the Iceland Ocean Cluster is not the only entity trying to do this, but now we have a network of ocean clusters all around the world, all aiming at, or targeting different species. So, of course, we have cod, and so now currently we've worked for full utilization of cod, Cape Hake in Namibia, and 4 different species in the Great Lakes. But we have a lot of other species that we are currently working on. So, of course, Atlantic salmon from the aquaculture sector, which is booming in Iceland, but also cold water shrimps, nephrops in Ireland, Pacific cod, Pacific salmon, the snow crab, yes, king crab, and tuna and mackerel in the Pacific. So again, yeah, full utilization of the resources and trying to use 100% of every fish that we catch. And I think that's the end of my talk. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now the plan is just to open it up for questions. So if anyone wants to discuss something, please raise your hand. And if no one wants to, I can also start. We've talked a little bit about what the aquaculture can learn from the more traditional fisheries, but is there anything that the fisheries can learn from the aquaculture? Like Valur mentioned the salmon, like how salmon has been exploding. So is there anything like that that you can give us a bit more insight out? And also Valur, feel free to jump in as well.
So I think just because the industry, so wild fisheries and especially cod, it was historically that was the main species. I think that's why it has a head start and it has so many products derived from the side streams. But at this point, a lot of the current projects we have are very much focused on salmon, and the reason is because of that boom. And I think everything that is applicable to cod can be transferred to salmon and to a lot of other species as well. It's just that you need to redo, and I think this is where Matis usually excels, is you would need to characterize again all these side streams to know what's the best route for product development, because that's the fish looks similar, but yet they're so different. So, the fat content or the protein content might vary from one part of your fish to the other. Like you can't really, it's transferable, but every time you need to recharacterize your fish. So I think, thank God, salmon is fairly well known. So I can only foresee a lot of this. The innovation that was done with cod can definitely be done with salmon. And the other thing that I think might make it even faster for salmon, especially farmed salmon, is that you already have a very standardized product because you raised that fish since, it was like an egg. So you have a full control over, their diet, like everything throughout their life cycle, while you have no control over what the cod is doing in the ocean. So starting with an already standardized product, I think would help with any innovation down the line. I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah. Valur, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I agree. It should be partly transferable with what we have done in the emerging species, especially with cod, to the salmon sector that is booming here as in other places. So we're not only doing the sea-based salmon farming, we're planning on massive land-based farming, and Carla said, we're getting almost standardized product from the farms with the similar sizes but what we are currently doing is we're not filleting in Iceland at any rate. We are sending it, gutted or headed or gutted to the marketplace. So we are not getting the same amount or same side stream opportunities like we have in whitefish sector because we're doing the primary processing. So that's something we also have to consider, but that might change, hopefully. Hopefully we'll do more processing before we export it, but there are some issues there, of course, with taxes and with the rigor. It has to go through rigor usually before it's processed at any rate. So there are opportunities, but also issues that we have to sort out.
Thank you. Does anyone feel ready to ask a question now? And we're fully open because obviously we are all fish people, but we realize that there's not everyone is a fish person. So even if you have like a basic question about fish, that's also totally fine. But if no one else is raising their hand, I can go again. And I wanted to mention a bit, or maybe talk a bit about the differences in management, because obviously the fish stocks, like we talked about, it takes a lot of effort to find them, check on their condition. They might follow the changing climate, etc., etc. Whereas aquaculture is facing other management issues. Is there anything you want to talk about there that you see as like a big problem that's yet to be solved or something?
We see, or we are starting probably to see the effect of climate changes in the fish stocks. We are, especially with the pelagic species, seeing different patterns that we have seen before. Fished in a different area or new areas, and then not. So we are seeing some changes. The demersal species are not seeing any effect of climate changes there, I think. But for the pelagic, there have been quite a lot of changes, and we're not sure if it's all related to climate changes or different streams or different heat in the ocean or the zooplankton volumes and so on and so forth. But and it's difficult, especially you don't want to have a huge ship with 10, 12, 15 men in a crew looking for the fish. You want to be able to predict or know beforehand where to go to fish get the right species you're searching for. So especially with the oil prices now, you cannot afford to have it sailing for many days just looking. So that's why we have the institute doing the main searching, and then the companies are helping, and we have this system in place especially for the pelagic, when they all go almost to search if nothing has been found. So it's we are seeing changes, and we are seeing, of course, we saw the new species like mackerel all of a sudden appeared in Iceland economic zone. So and then it went low again, and the rise and fall of capelin and all these changes and the loss of herring. So it's a tricky business. and we're not sure if the climate or is a huge factor yet, but it will probably become bigger factor than it's now.
Yeah, Clara, do you want to add anything or?
I mean, I'm thinking two things that so I mean actually just so I feel like I'm doing here free PR, but so there's a small company in the cluster, you know, talking about so what they do now is predict where the fish populations are. This is mainly based on satellite data. And I'm dropping their website in the chat if people are interested. But what that can help is exactly what Valur was saying. You don't want to be just sailing looking for the fish. So usually, I mean, captains, they're very experienced and they will have an idea where the fish is. But by following or by having these tools, then they can be more, you know, it can be more targeted. So let's say you want to only get cod and not the halibut, then, you know, you're going to go somewhere where there's only cod and not halibut, or depending on what is the quota left, then you can target certain areas where, you know, you're not going to have the bycatch that you don't want, but that's the species that you want. So I think that this is where the industry is going. Greenfish, so this is the company that does this tool for prediction of the fish there. And another thing maybe I wanted to say is that for like regardless of what side stream or the utilization of the fish is, I think it's really key to always ensure that your resource is sustainable. So this is the reason also we have, you know, sustainable Icelandic fisheries. This is also some like a certification, sustainable, yeah, certification that so they have their offices at the cluster as well. But generally, and I'm thinking whatever industry you based on that resource, you really first need to ensure that resource is sustainable. And one thing I'm thinking of is at the moment we work a lot with cold water shrimps. And a company that uses the carapace, so the shells of these shrimps for as side streams, and you know the fisheries they sell the meat. But there was such companies before in Canada, and because the shrimp stock just declined too much, now the entire industry has disappeared. So there's no more like the fisheries of the cold water shrimp in Canada is almost nothing. And that company that was using the side stream is of course bankrupt because the resource disappeared. So I think it's key to just first take care of the resource, especially if you build a full ecosystem around it. So yeah.
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 And that's probably often the idea behind aquaculture, is to try to have a more sustainable, stable, controlled, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
resource.
Yeah, and I mean also the full utilization. Usually, I mean, again, I'm thinking of our work with the Great Lakes. Like the origin of it was the fish stocks in the Great Lakes. Of course, you know it's freshwater fish, but they were under great pressure, and the fishermen could see this that you know the number of fishes in the lakes were declining, and therefore you're thinking, well, then maybe I can't be a fisherman my whole life if there's no fish. And therefore, you know, the whole industry, but also all the cultural and the social benefits that go with that activity disappear, as well as all the traditions. And so there's a moment where you need to protect the fish, so you need to fish less, but how then can you ensure the survival of the fishermen? And the only way is catch less fish, but make more money out of each fish. And not by increasing necessarily the price of the fillets, but by wasting less and using this waste or side stream. And I think that's what we've seen in the Great Lakes over the past now, I don't know, 4 or 5 years almost. It's honestly super positive where now they do a lot of fish leather because there was a lot of manual filleting happening still, a lot of protein hydrolysates as well that is used for different types of applications. But so essentially new value chains from the same fish, which means that the activity, like fishermen can still be fishermen. And I think it's key again because you have all these traditional dishes that are based on these species of fish that are locally important, and you want to maintain that. The economic, like there's both the environment, the traditions or the culture that goes with it, and the economic and social benefits of this. So yeah.
Yeah, you can't just tell a town that's reliant on fisheries, sorry, there's no more fish.
Yeah. And what you lose when you lose the fish is not only the fish, it's everything downstream. So the jobs, the everything. Yeah. So let's take care of the fish. Eat all of it or use all of it. And again, beyond food, because I think a lot of the side streams that we use, they are then processed into things that are not food actually. So again, pharmaceutical, textile, which I think, yeah, we can go beyond just the food, even though originally we were catching fish to feed ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So,
have
yeah.
still time for some questions if anyone dares ask. But if no one is asking, I can ask one more, and then I think we can call it. Are there any lessons that you've learned that you can see being transferred over to other resources? So not necessarily fish or aquatic resources, or just to other bioresources? Big question, I know.
I mean, I would say yes, and it's maybe a bit, how you call it, like a bit cheesy, but I think the collaboration piece is key. And actually talking about other bioresources, and again, several products like the collagen, clearly it was competing companies that got together. And I think I want to then cite the Farmers Association of Iceland that says, compete when you have to, but collaborate otherwise. And I think that's probably what will unlock, possibilities for utilization of other resources. Again, I'm not so familiar with cattle farming or like so yeah, but I would suspect that it's by collaborating with the people that are around you or near you.
Yeah, I think collaboration is the key to almost everything. I think the fishing company is collaborating with the research institute doing the quota estimation. They're giving it because the modern boats are quite they're almost like a research vessels in a way. They're collecting quite a lot of data from the sea, and they, by importing that data also, not only from the research vessels, they have a better view of the resources in the sea and can do better estimation and quantification of the stocks in the sea. So I think collaboration is the key to going forward.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that this story is very long. Like the history of the collaboration is very long, so it also does take time to build up the trust between the research and the industry and the policy, so that everyone can move in the same direction.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, if no one has any more questions, we're at an hour now, so I think we're good. I mean, we could talk about this all day, every day, which we do, but unless someone wants to add anything, I think we can just say thank you, and yeah, thank you for listening, and be in touch if you want to know anything else. And thank you, Valur and Clara, for doing this. It's very much appreciated.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure to come.
No problem.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.